Lights up. Well, welcome everyone to this opening session. This controller session is, of course, on BBC2. I'm sure you're aware of that. You haven't stumbled in here. The channel was 50, again, as you all know, this year. So happy birthday, I suppose, to BBC2, which makes it a middle-aged channel and sets up my next line, which is, of course, some will say for a middle-aged audience and perhaps a middle-class audience. Channel share is up. But critics argue the schedule is perhaps a little bit tired, but at 50, well, aren't we all? I can speak for myself. The channel also has a new controller, of course, Kim Shillinglaw. Now, Kim can't be with us here today. You'll notice she's not here. That's definitely not Kim. She's on holiday, bunking off her first Edinburgh as controller. So instead, we've got Danny Cohen standing in for us. So welcome to you, Danny, and thank you very much indeed for stepping up to the plate. Has she dobbed you in it? Or what's she up to?
First of all, apologies you got me. I think better if you had Kim. Kim had booked a holiday related to a family anniversary before she got the new job. And I'm really a big believer people should have proper holidays and come back creatively refreshed. So I didn't say to her, cancel your holiday. I said, go and have a good time.
OK, and you were going to be here anyway, and we appreciate you doing this session for us, Danny. Now, I just want to explain that we want to get you all involved. I'm sure you're pretty much aware of this, but there's an app for the television festival. If you haven't downloaded it, I suggest you get it up out of the App Store now, because that will enable you to take part in this session. And some of you already have. On your tablets, you will find a picture of the controller. That's him, Danny Cohen. Hit him on the face, and that will pop then where you can either post your own thoughts and comments. They're all anonymous, by the way, so that's a bonus. If you're going to be pitching in the near future, if it's going to be rude. Or you can rate a comment or a thought that somebody's already made. You can like it, and then that will put it to the top of the ratings. You'll see what I mean when you go there. Just slightly different on your iPhone. On the app, there's a controller button. It's quite small. You might miss it first time around. In the right-hand side, just tap that button, and that will then take you through the same process. So, Danny, if you were putting a question to yourself through this app, what would it be?
What am I doing here? Isn't this Kim's job?
Well, that's very good. Can you answer that, please?
No, I have. No, she's on holiday. The question would be, I suppose, around future BBC2 in this session and what we're planning next for the channel. I think channels inevitably evolve with the new controller, and I think people will obviously be keen to know what those changes will be, what the channel, how it will be the same, how it might be different. And hopefully we'll spend time talking about that.
Yeah, we will. But just tell me, first of all, why did you give her the job? What did she say to you? What made her stand out from the other candidates?
I think good channel controllers have a really good mixture of passion for individual content and creativity and an ability to see a strategic overview. I think you need to be able to do both. You need to see the big picture for the channel and what you're intending to do and how that channel will work within the BBC portfolio, but also an eye for a really original idea and how to make that original idea really stand out. And for me in the interviews, Kim combined that really strong sense of strategy with a creative vision. Yeah, and is it true when you told her she was getting the job that she went to give you a big hug? You told her to sit down, you hadn't told the other candidates yet. I did. As people will know in the BBC, everything's glass, and I wanted to be kind of concerned for the other candidates who hadn't been told yet, and I didn't want them to find out by me seeing that. I wanted to tell them personally and explain why I shouldn't do that. I think someone wrote that was unhuggable.
She did?
Yeah, I think I'd say that I'm very happy not to have a reputation for going around hugging female members of staff. I'm very relaxed about that, and I'll keep my hugs at home.
Okay, what about a man hug at the end of this?
Well,
we'll see how it goes.
Let's see how close we get in the next few minutes.
But I mean, the reason we know all this is because Kim gave an interview where she spilt the beans. I mean, she's pretty outspoken, isn't she? She speaks her mind. Presumably, one of the reasons why you gave her the job. But is she going to be neutered? She's moving into management now. We know what the BBC.
I'm not sure she's going to be neutered. No, I think everyone who becomes more and more public, they learn in each thing how they want to answer questions. But
speaking for yourself.
Yeah, but no, I think she's got strong views. I think she hopefully is listening well as having strong views, because I think that's what all people in channel controls and commissioning need to do. So hopefully she's going to get a really good balance between those two.
But does she? I mean, she obviously has a free rein. I'm sure you've had those discussions while you were talking about the job. But you've recently come out of commissioning, well, relatively recently come out of commissioning yourself on a big channel. The temptation is going to be, given that you have oversight, to meddle a bit, maybe?
Well,
I mean, you know, have you drawn red lines for yourself now that you're in this job?
Yeah.
Slightly off the subject.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, I hope Charlotte would say, who I've been working with, running BBC One for a year, and obviously that was changed to run, that I don't meddle and don't interfere. I mean, there's a number of reasons for it. First of all, I want her to do the job, and when I was doing that job, I wouldn't have liked my predecessor doing that. I think it's time for someone else to have their own vision of the channel, and that's right. There's other things. I'm too busy. You know, I've got a lot of other things I have to do. I haven't got time to do it. And actually, the other thing is, it's really, actually, I thought I'd miss commissioning. I don't miss it at all, actually, because you end up saying no most of the time, and it's really nice not saying no all the time.
Okay, well,
so I don't miss
we're going
it.
to try and get that percentage of saying no's down a little bit here as we go through the session. I'm going to be asking Danny, we're going through specific genres, we're going to be asking, you know, what their thinking is, what they're looking for, how they want it crafted, who they might want to present it, and things like that. But, you know, just one last question, though, about Kim. I mean, is the real test going to be, for you, I suppose, that she commissions something that you think, I wouldn't have done that, I don't really like that, and whether you intervene or not?
Yeah, I mean, I think you'll have found, I mean, I've been doing this job only just a year, there'll have been loads on I wouldn't have commissioned, and that's why you need to change channel controllers, because sometimes you'll make a decision about something and say no, and then they'll bring it back when you're not there, and it'll get commissioned, and I think, you know, that happened when I was running BBC One. There were things like Call the Midwife that I think may have, you know, got knocked back previously, and that's no discredit to anyone, that happens. And then it's the next person's turn, and one of the things they do is say yes to some things you said no to, and that's really healthy. And that's why I think it's quite good if channel controllers change every 4 or 5 years.
Okay, it's interesting insight there into the process. Listen, we're asking everyone this question, all our controllers. You're first to face this. What fictional television character would you be, and why?
That's fun.
That was convincing.
Dermot, which would you be?
No. I asked the questions.
So I think, let me think. I think I'd say to Doctor Who's assistant.
All right.
That's what I'd say. I'd say Doctor Who's assistant, because I've always found the job of being a channel controller or commissioner, which I've been doing for a while now, you're there to enable other people's brilliance. If you're a good channel controller or commissioner, you're there to give people opportunities, try and find the best projects, and then try and allow the best people to make those projects really well.
So who would Kim be? Would she be Doctor Who?
You're going to have to ask her next year. But that's how I see these jobs. You're there to enable other people's brilliance, to allow the best work to reach the screen. So I'll go for that. And a good week, obviously, new Doctor arriving, so it's a very exciting week for us on Doctor Who.
Do you think we'll ever see a female Doctor?
I hope so, but we'll always just pick the best Doctor. And I think Peter Capaldi is going to be an astonishingly good Doctor.
Okay, now listen, first question from the app. I guess you rather expected this. This is the top rated one at the moment, and it's
very modern, this, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's good, isn't it? You know, it's very touchscreen. It'll go away if I touch it, actually. Is Jeremy Clarkson, talking of touchable, is Jeremy Clarkson untouchable? He's made the headlines so many times, his un-PC comments, but he's never appropriately sanctioned.
Well, I was very, very clear in public and in private with Jeremy that I was incredibly unhappy with his language, and I wrote a letter to The Guardian last week to say again how unhappy I was with his language. I've made that really clear. Jeremy knows that that's my position, and that's going to impact on the way the show is thought about in the future. People have different views on Jeremy. I've talked to loads of people who think that me being so angry about it is an overreaction. I've met lots of people who said that. I don't think it's an overreaction. I think it was, and he disagrees too, by the way. He doesn't see a problem with some of the language he uses. I do. I think it was unacceptable. I've made that really, really clear to him, and we'll go from there.
But, I mean, you know, is the problem that to BBC2, Top Gear, to the whole of the BBC, Top Gear is just so important, and Jeremy Clarkson is so important to Top Gear?
I hope people can see from my reaction to it and how clear I was with them about it in public and in private that I don't feel that's the case. You know, I think, you know, it's like football clubs. No one's bigger than the club. And that's why I was so clear in public and private that I was unhappy with it and I wouldn't accept it. So, no, I don't think that's the case. No one show or person is bigger than the BBC, and that's the way I see it. And that includes me, includes anyone who works there. So, yeah, I mean,
well,
I don't want to say.
Okay.
I found it entirely unacceptable.
Okay, well, just let me relate it though to the channel. I mean, as I said, they're Top Gear, hugely important to BBC2. I mean, what would BBC2 be like without it? Could it move to BBC One? Bake Off did.
I think over the years there's been a feeling that preceded my involvement with BBC2 in my current role that the tone of Top Gear was a better fit for BBC2 than BBC1. I know the people involved in the show over the years have felt that. I think the controllers of BBC2 and BBC2 have certainly felt that. And I think there are some shows that will inevitably move. I don't expect that one to move from BBC2 to BBC1.
Okay.
It's part of my role to, running the portfolio, to make that decision whether things move, and I made that decision on Bake Off, but I'm not planning a similar decision with Top Gear.
Okay, thanks for being so clear. Right, well, listen, we've asked Danny, all the controllers are being asked to bring 4 clips, so to speak, along with them. We're starting with the clip that Danny's chosen that he feels defines BBC2. It needs really no introduction because you'll probably have seen it and you'll know the presenter very well. Let's have a look at the first clip. Why is that channel defining then?
So, when I look at that, I've seen that clip, I've watched it a few times now. That's why I love TV. I mean, I think that's just amazing. So that team, those are the astronauts coming out have been on the International Space Station for six months. That's a Soyuz craft returning to Earth. Brian and his team, taking place in the Kazakh steppe in the middle of winter. Brian and his team travelled 72 arduous hours to get there. I think it was the longest working day of their life. And BBC2 has a very, very strong mission to inform. And I think when it can make the mission to inform as exciting as that, as dramatic as that, as original as that, I think that's amazing. I think that's astonishing. In terms of what that tells us about what we're looking for on BBC2, I think questions around how you combine a mission to inform with dramatic, high-energy content. You know, Brian will go on in that programme to talk about the technology and the physics that make that Soyuz space station and space, all of the things that the world now does in orbit of the Earth work. So it's that combination really of mission to inform and high-energy, imaginative content. And then I think the other thing, sorry Dermot, that's really important about it is that BBC2 has done an astonishing job with in-house production, and Andrew Cohen in particular leading that, to develop Brian as an amazing expert talent for BBC2 and the BBC. And the question for us always is, who's going to join them on that? So we have Mary Beard on BBC2, we have Brian, we're announcing today we're doing a major landmark series on the history of Black Britain presented by David Olusoga, who presented his first piece for the BBC2 just in August. So finding that next generation of incredible experts to go on these journeys on BBC2 as part of that mission to inform is huge.
I mean, it's just jumping slightly ahead of ourselves as we get into genres, but I mean, I wanted to get a sense there of, you know, you said it's channel defining and you've given us a sense of, you know, just what is BBC2 for now? So many questions with BBC3 going and its relationship. Kim is, of course, controller of BBC2 and 4. How are they going to sit together and what is BBC2 saying to the BBC, to the BBC's audience?
Well, I think that I've made the relationship between BBC2 and BBC4 closer. I felt that they often serve the same audiences. Their channels based on factual more than anything else, and they weren't talking to each other properly. And I want them to talk to each other properly, share content, share ideas, share seasons. The first we did of those, which I think went really well, but we also learnt from, was we did an 18th century season in the spring, shared between BBC2 and BBC4, and we'll continue to share content in that way. I think the best description, it's not mine, that I've heard of how they might interact is that if BBC2 looks at the universe, BBC4 will then look at the atom. And that you'll take
what does that mean?
Well, you'll take a broader approach on BBC2 to a specialist factual subject, and you'll try and capture everything. But BBC4 will then do a brilliant job of honing in on a detail and exploring it with an expert lens. And that interaction between the two, whether it's through seasons, different programme themes, is going to be increasingly important between the two channels.
I mean, we've got to relate all these discussions to audience as well, and the average age is creeping up, not just on BBC2 and other channels, with BBC3 going.
Yeah, it's not going, it's moving online. It's a very important distinction.
Okay, thank you very much indeed for that. But with BBC3 going, will BBC2 begin to look for some of that audience? Is it going to go?
It's not going, it's moving online. Well, it's a good question. It's not just BBC2. I'm going to be asking all the channels to make sure that they're doing a better job of reaching out to young people. That's not really essentially just because of what we're doing with BBC3. It's because you're right to say that the channels are ageing. Now, it's an inevitable demographic pull because, as you know, the population's ageing and you're pulled in that direction. But I think BBC2, along with BBC1, is going to be pushing harder to reach younger audiences. Now, when we say younger audiences, we're actually talking about under 55s. it's not that we're saying, it's all about teenagers. Sometimes the BBC's told it's obsessed with teenagers, sometimes we're told we're not obsessed enough. Actually, what we're talking here is about under 55s and making sure we're reaching out to people, particularly on BBC2 in that kind of 30 to 55. But brilliant if we can get more and more young people watching BBC2. I'm sure a lot of them love Brian Cox and what he does in science. But I think it's the responsibility of all our channels actually in the next 2 or 3 years to make sure we reach underserved audiences. And one of the areas of, there's a number, there's diverse audiences, but there's also young audiences. They're being underserved by the BBC and often by all channels. And we're going to make a strong effort to improve on that.
And the talent, the presenters you used perhaps have a bearing on that, on the audiences that they attract and the ones you address. And you started to touch on that, but still staying with science. And you were talking about Brian Cox and other presenters that you are either bringing in or you're using. But, we want to have Kim's voice in this session as much as possible. And she's quoted as saying, and giving her background, she knows a lot about it, of course. Science, not just on television, can give off a pretty blokey whiff. Would you go along with that?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, I think she's probably right about that. I'm not sure I'll sit here during her session and disagree with her. I think that can be the case. I think there's different subjects appeal to different people. One of the things I like about Horizon as a strand is that you can get the variety into it. So you've got over a dozen films a year, each can take on a different topic. And I'd imagine from what Kim's saying there, that she'll aim through her commissioning of science in general and also through what we do with Horizon to make sure we get that balance.
But if it is presenter-led, I mean, you've got a problem, aren't you? That, it's just the way it has happened and the way things have evolved. A lot of the experts are male and white. Where do you find the non-male and non-white experts who will engage audiences and lead them through
I'd say that I think it's a fair question. I think I'd say that BBC2, perhaps more than any other UK channel, has done a better job of bringing through women as experts than any other channel. Mary
and
Beard,
ethnic diversity as well?
As I mentioned, we're bringing through David Olusoga as a history presenter. It'll be the first time I think we've done that as effectively as we are with David. He'll do a big series and just done some other pieces for us. But that can't be the beginning or the end. As I said, I think, whether it's Lucy Worsley, whether it's Mary Beard, there's a whole range of names that I could mention now, particularly around women and some diversity, but we need to get better, as I say, where BBC2 has done a very good job of that. And I think actually set standards. We're going to push even harder, there's no doubt about that. But I think in the area of experts, I think that's one of the great things that Kim will be inheriting from Janice. Okay. Janice is bringing through a few experts.
So for those that may want to pitch in this room, that's one clue if they are going to go for a presenter-led. Yeah. You've also touched on what you're looking for, what the opportunities are in science and natural history by saying you want things to be informative and dramatic. Is there any other more information you could share with the audience about what you're looking for?
Well, we'll keep working in themes and seasons, so ideas for seasons as well as the information we can communicate to you, and we're going to keep getting better at that in factual commissioning in terms of what are the themes and seasons that are coming up. Are we talking about science there particularly, Dermot, or history as well?
Science, natural history.
So natural history, it's really interesting managing that on BBC2 because we have those very, very big landmarks on BBC1, and we got the next one coming soon. How that works on BBC2 can be different. I think Kim would like that to be more characterful. I think there's been some pieces coming through that felt more characterful in natural history. I think that we also want to try and get some more stuff in that area which feels more immersive. One of the interesting things you'll see there with Brian is that's a more immersive use of Brian than we've seen before.
Well, that's reportage as well there. I mean, that footage, that access is extraordinary.
Absolutely right. So I think how we immerse our presenters more in situations in specialist faction elsewhere is going to be very interesting for us, and we'll look for other ways of doing that.
Okay, well, let's take the natural out, and you said the history. Let's look at that then while we're close to it. The Georgians, the Plantagenets, the Normans, the Crusades. Sounds a bit like a kind of rather dusty school timetable. I mean, is it going to get a bit more fun and entertaining, history, or are you going to tell me it already is?
You don't love history, do you?
I'm a historian. I've got a degree.
Well, I think those subjects, you should love those subjects. Look, I think all of those subjects are interesting. I think it's the way you do them. Yeah. And I think the popularity of history programmes on BBC2 suggests we're doing them in general in a way which is really, really interesting and entertaining. I think one of the things that we're trying to do a bit more on BBC2 in history is not, and actually across factual, is we've been quite dependent on the single presenter telling you about something. I liked the Anne Boleyn documentary that we did a while ago, which had a range of voices in history, a range of competing historical perspectives, and I think Kim will be looking for ways of varying that so that we're not always dependent on one expert telling you the story of a piece of history. So I think any subject on television can be made interesting. It's the way you do it. BBC2 is very, very strong, very popular in history, and we need to keep looking at ways of doing it. Some of the pieces like, I don't know, Victorian Farm, there's quite a lot of that we've done on BBC2. We'll continue to look, I think, for experiential, entertaining ways of doing history. We'll continue to use individual experts, but we're also going to mix up a bit more and have a range of voices within each programme.
But any new area, I mean, what are you looking for the future? It is history, but for the future.
Yeah, so we're working hard on our diversity. So there's a history of Black Britain, which I just mentioned. Yeah. We're going to do quite a lot on India, I hope, next year. So we're starting to look for ideas. We've already commissioned a fair amount around India, and some of that will be historical. Those are the main themes at the moment. I don't want to... If you start saying individual periods or individual names, then you get a rush on one thing. What we always look for in commissioning
there's always anniversaries and things like that.
Yeah, but actually one of the interesting things about that, Dermot, is sometimes I think we may become over-dependent on that.
Exactly.
So I think we've done a really good job across the BBC on World War I. Really good job.
Just 4 years to run.
Just 4 years to run, a history degree, you know. We've done a really good job on that, but sometimes we can be too based around anniversaries, and you just want very surprising stories. Well, also, you know, we shouldn't ignore them. Next year, it's the end of the anniversary, the end of the Second World War. It'll probably be the last major anniversary of the Second World War. There'll be a lot of survivors alive. In the same year, it's the liberation of the concentration camps. Again, it will probably be the last major anniversary where so many survivors are alive. Of course, on the BBC, we should mark those moments, and we've got programmes prepared for them. But we also want to vary the different periods we look at, go into deep history as well as contemporary history.
You've got the programmes prepared, but you were still open to ideas.
Of course.
That's all I want to hear. Listen, we've got to move on. We're going to move on to factual now, and you know, just how pertinent, how apt is this next clip you've chosen. It's Children of Syria. That again needs no explanation. Let's have a look at this one. Children of Syria, and we asked. That was in the category of something that Danny's very proud of, but was disappointed with the ratings. I mean, and just watching, I mean, deserves a re-watching right now, because within that, you know, with everyone out asking about what happened yesterday, why, how, who did it, there's a lot of clues, aren't there, in that remarkable piece of storytelling. But that's the point. Not enough people came to it, did they? I mean, is it because there's so much choice around, these films can't have the impact they used to?
Yeah, I mean, look, Kim and I were asked about a number of categories, and one we were asked for was something you were very proud of and you wish more people had seen. So we weren't disappointed in the ratings. We wish more people had seen it, and because it's so good. I mean, in general, I believe we're there for broadcasting. I genuinely believe that we want to make great things that lots of people watch. We're spending public money. We should get this content to as many people as possible. There will be some things that you're immensely proud of that you know lots of people won't watch. That got about 500,000 or 600,000, which is obviously very low for BBC2 in prime time. But we knew it would not do very well in ratings terms, but we put it at 9 o'clock. And I think sometimes international current affairs doesn't play at 9 o'clock in other places. It will play at 7:30 sometimes. It will play at 10:35, 11 o'clock.
So is that what you'll be looking for in the future?
No, no. Well, we want to play more brave current affairs like that right in the half peak. Okay. We both believe in that. I think in terms of the way we do it, one of the things I loved about Lise Doucette's film was a strong sense of journalistic inquiry, but it also found the human heart of the story.
The storytelling there.
Human heart story was there. And also there was something visceral around it. And I think what audiences are going for more and more in their current affairs, they want to feel that visceral feel of what's really going on. Yeah. And you got that very strongly there, and we'll look for more that has that strong
especially given
flavour.
the location and the context. But how many of them can you do per year? You know, you've got to think about the ratings as well.
Well, we're not doing any less current affairs than we've done. We're not reducing it. We've got some DQF cuts across all our genres, but there's no desire to reduce what we do in current affairs. You know, James Harding coming in as BBC head of news of current affairs is as committed as I am and Kim is and Charlotte and the other channel controls to making sure we play those pieces in the heart of prime time, whether they get big audiences or not, and you'll see us do more of that.
So, but in this 9 o'clock, I mean, you're not worried that this is one of the few areas, isn't it, at BBC2 that's actually down on shares,
yeah,
3% down. But
that's why
that's where you're going to put them.
Well, we'll put them in a range of places.
Okay.
But 9 o'clock. But that's why that's the job of a channel controller, to make sure that you have enough that's very popular, so that you can feel absolutely content that you can remain a strong broadcaster, but feel comfortable playing those pieces at 9 o'clock and be proud of them. And that's the juggling act that you do in broadcasting as a channel controller, and that's what Kim will need to do.
Okay. Popular factual. Let me go along the rails here, and I mean that, and the runways and the roads. Airport Live, Route Masters, the railway keeping Britain on track, the tube, watermen, forgot about the canals, a very British airline, £5 billion railway. My goodness me, have we got there yet? Where'd you go with documentary series involving transport? Are there any more that you can do?
Well, we've got another one there about
hang gliding.
Hang gliding. I've got, do you know, a friend will be so pleased you mentioned hang gliding. We've done Soyuz, we've done space travel there as well.
Okay,
so
right,
we're looking for all the options. I think that's a fair point. Look, we do a lot of access series on BBC2. We've had some brilliant ones protecting your children, protecting your parents. There's a very, very wide range of impressive documentary. Have we reached the end of the road with travel? I will go back and ask him that question. But the documentary range on BBC2, I think, whether that's some of those areas like Claridge's and so on, has been really, really impressive. And we'll keep building that. We a bit like some of that current affairs, there'll be stuff like Protecting Your Parents, which we know won't do brilliantly, but we are immensely proud to have on the channel. And we'll keep playing those at 9 o'clock too. But those popular lighter forms of documentary too, you know, I know that BBC2 would have looked at a piece like The Call Centre on BBC3 and thought that kind of entertaining, slightly comic documentary tone is something that we'd like a bit more of on BBC2. I think Kim will look for that. We're going to open up the 10 o'clock slot on BBC2 a bit more. Kim's going to open that up a bit more for entertaining, sometimes quite edgy factual. That's been a slot.
But shouldn't it also be gritty? I mean, look at Channel 4.
I said edgy. I said
edgy, but gritty. I mean, you're dealing with poverty, one thinks, on Channel 4, the underclass. Isn't that BBC2's territory as well?
Yeah, and I think you'll see in things like Protecting Your Parents and those shows that we are doing a fair amount of that. Channel 4 will also have things like Gogglebox and other things. I think the joy of a channel is the joy of a channel is you mix the two, and you want the entertaining and you want the edgy, as I was saying. I think there's an opportunity there at 10 o'clock to do a bit more half-hour factual. And that's something that BBC2's done a bit less of in the past in prime time. But I think what Kim wants to do there is that, as you know, that slot has been dominated by comedy and factual entertainment and panel shows. We're going to open up a bit more of that space for half-hour edgy, gritty, but also some entertaining factual.
All right, there's more information there. Lifestyle Bake-Off, we said before, has gone. And you've said that one of Kim's priorities will be to reinvent feature formats. So how do you do that?
Well, it's the hardest thing. Well, one of the hardest things. I think the hardest thing is comedy, actually. But it's one of the hard and drama. But one of the hardest things is finding those next formats, because everyone's after them. You know, every channel's after them, every broadcaster's after them, globally too. I think BBC2's track record on that has been really, really impressive. It's been a place that's been able to grow shows, some of which have moved to BBC One over the years. When inevitably, it's never a nice moment for a channel controller when you move their most popular show onto another channel. It leaves a big hole. Kim's got a big hole to fill there, and she's got hours and time.
It constrains them a bit. They don't want them to get too popular and too big, because you're going to nick them.
They probably sometimes think that. But, you know, that's why we have a portfolio, and, you know, we're a team, we're not just a set of individual channels. You know, BBC2's got a very strong track record over a long period, whether it's The Apprentice, Have I Got News For You? There's a whole load, Who Do You Think You Are? Bake-Off of shows. When they reach a certain scale, they move to BBC One. That's good, actually, in a sense, for BBC2 in the long run, because it allows for creative refreshment, and it allows new slots to open up for new popular formats to be tried.
What about the traditional formats? What about cookery, gardening, fashion, things like that, hardy perennials? They're not going. I mean, but are you looking to change them, new faces, new formats?
Yeah, I think Lorraine Pascal's landed really, really well on BBC2. I think there's been some good refreshment there. I think how we go beyond chop and cook is one of the things that she'll look at. We've got some very good chop and cookers. How do we do food programming that goes beyond that in half-hour forms is something that I think Kim will be looking quite hard on. We always are looking for new talent in those areas. And we've done really well on that, actually, on BBC in the last few years, but we always look for the next one.
What about drama? Now,
partly because Channel 4 keeps nicking them.
Yeah, exactly. Are you jealous? I mean, somewhat. I mean,
no,
it's the second time.
No, it's the way of it. I think that's fine. I think it's a bit like the Bake-Off thing. You create, each time you do that, you create room for a new person to come through and try something different. And I think that's really good, because you want to keep.
The BBC.
Yeah, I mean, I think you partly the job of the people, but also I think you're right to say, God, the channel's 50 years old. How do you keep a channel that's 50 years old? I remember when I was at Channel 4 working for Kevin Liger, I think we had I can't remember if it was the 20th or the 25th anniversary of Channel 4. And Kevin really didn't want to do much about it. You know, he said, let's not mark these anniversaries in a big way. You don't want to feel television channels getting older. And I think for BBC2 reaching 50, as you rightly say, you've got to, how do you keep it fresh? How do you keep doing new things? How do you keep driving it to make sure it reaches younger audiences as well as older viewers?
Okay, let's talk now about very important drama, what you're looking for there. Right, you've got a good run, Line of Duty, Peaky Blinders, The Fall, The Honourable Woman. Again, well, you know, given what we're all discussing in the news at the moment, fantastic timing, fantastic production and acting in that. But have things changed because of box sets, because of Netflix? Have things changed in the way that you and Kim will have to think about drama?
So I think the story, the revival of drama on BBC2, I don't know if other people agree, but my personal view is the revival of drama on BBC2 in the last 3 or 4 years has been an extraordinary thing. There was a point at which drama was essentially taken off BBC2, and Ben and his team started really from scratch. And to have got within 3 or 4 years to a place where we have, as you say, Line of Duty, Peaky Blinders, The Fall, a brilliant single drama coming up, Eric and Ernie, there'll be others that I'm not mentioning. I think it's The Honourable Woman. I think it's Shadowland, Stephen Polyakov. I think it's truly amazing. And when you talk to colleagues, I was talking to a colleague at AMC the other day, they just can't believe the consistent quality of drama on the BBC.
But
and
is
on
it hard
BBC2.
to? I mean, is it hard to become part of the national conversation? You know, thinking way back to This Life and things like that, because of the multiplicity of outlets and the great drama that's out there coming to us from the United States and all other places.
But I see that as positive. I think this is a golden age for drama on television. I think it's starting to eclipse movies as the place where it is eclipsing movies as the place where the most interesting, complex, best crafted work is taking place.
BBC2 can afford to make those, the ones that are eclipsing the movies.
I think, well, they can, but part of their triumph is they don't have movie budgets and they're doing that. And I think the thing around box sets is really interesting. When you go to America, they tell you how extraordinary British drama is. Often here, you're told, why aren't we doing drama like the Americans? And I think if you work here and you work in drama, you're quite baffled by that, and you can get a bit, if you particularly work in drama, quite irritated by it because the quality of the work here is so good. I think we should celebrate the strength of British drama, not just on the BBC, but across British broadcasting and across Europe. And be really, really, really proud of what we're achieving here. Celebrate what's going on in America. I watch loads of those American shows. It's not about whether one is better than the other, but we should be immensely proud of what's going on here.
But, you know, I was touching on budgets really there because it's high production values as well, which is one reason why.
Let me give you an example.
But does it differ? Is there less for a BBC2 one than a BBC one?
No, actually.
But do they differ in terms of what you're looking for? Then this is a question for Danny Cohen.
It really is bespoke to what the show needs. So a show like In the Club on BBC One, which is a domestic series, won't have the same size budget as some of those big pieces on BBC2. Partly that because we co-produce them. The strength of the financial strength of companies like Netflix is really interesting. But for the price of 2 series of House of Cards, we made 14 drama series, 14 across BBC One and BBC2. Of different lengths. I believe so. I believe things like Peaky Blinders and Happy Valley and Call the Midwife and Doctor Who and Sherlock
you're a football fan.
You're a
football fan. It's a bit like Tottenham Hotspur and Gareth Bale, isn't it? We sold Gareth Bale for 85 million and we got 7 that were useless.
You're still not.
I'm an Arsenal fan.
You're pleased about that. Look, I think what we do for our money is extraordinary. I don't think money is the only factor but we do co-produce. I suppose my point is that by making so many different ones, if you make 2 22-part series, you can only work with one team and one set of writers. By making 14 series, we're giving opportunities for a range of writers, producers, directors and performers, and we're getting a range of tones and stories onto BBC television. And I'm really, really proud of that.
Just let me ask you about BBC4, because BBC4, also made a lot of biopics in certain cases. It's suffered cuts as well. Burton and Taylor, Hattie Jakes, etc., etc. The audiences really liked those, didn't they?
They did.
Are you going to look for those on BBC2 now?
We're going to do a bit of that, and actually, one of the clips we're going to look at has a sense of a biopic about it. We're not going to be able to do as much. The BBC's had a very substantial cut in its funding as a result of taking on the World Service, S4C, and so on. It amounts to about 25% of our overall funding has gone in this licence fee. We've had to make some hard choices, and BBC3 is one of them. Like any business, we've had to do that. And you can't avoid big choices when that happens. But we're going to have a bit of that flavour, but there is a bit less of that because we've got less money, and that's a fact. And actually, it's an important conversation to have going into charter renewal and the licence fee negotiations. A smaller BBC is a smaller UK creative industries, and there's less content.
And it also has a bearing on the next subject matter we're going to discuss, less money around the attitude to risk. Now, we've asked you to pick a clip here, which we're going to roll in a minute, which is you feel is a risky commission, but something you I know are very proud of as well. Just introduce it for us, Danny. It's marvellous.
So it's both it's called Marvellous and it is marvellous. It's a single drama on BBC2 about a man who was defined at quite an early age as having learning difficulties. And I think in his case, he believes that he doesn't, because he wouldn't have achieved all the extraordinary things he's done in his life if he had very extreme difficulties. It's moving, it's energising, it's aspirational, it's got a strong strand of diversity in it, brilliant performances. It's written by one of the great writers that we use a lot of, we try and work on the BBC, who's written also Occupation and Eric and Ernie. And it's extraordinary, I think, and a piece we're very, very proud of.
Okay, well, let's have a look at it. Fantastic. I cut you off at the knees when I posed the question before we showed the clip there, but, I mean, does less money around mean, less appetite for risk? You need to have more winners, don't you? You need more bang for your buck.
Well, I think the clips you've seen today illustrate that appetite for risk is very, very strong, because you get the best programmes. Sending Brian Cox on a 72-hour trip to the Kazakh steppe is the kind of risky program we want. Making single dramas, which you see a lot less of on television now, about characters like Neil Baldwin, working very, very closely. I know Pete Bowker and the team who made that worked very closely with Neil throughout the production to make sure that he was happy with the film. That requires a great deal of risk. So I don't think that content.
Yeah, I don't think that. You've got an excuse at the BBC, haven't you? If it fails, you say it was a risk, but we're a public service broadcaster and we've got to keep doing it.
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it, Dermot. Welcome to Sky News.
Well, plenty of risk there. Don't make any money.
No, look, some things get big audiences, some things don't. We celebrate ones that work really well. We celebrate ones like Children's Series that don't. I've no idea if lots of people watch Marvellous, but I think it'll be one of the TV highlights of the year. We'll be desperate to get Pete Bowker's next piece that he writes. We'll be very, very proud of pieces like that. So I think that really does show that. And the other thing I'd say is, whenever you get a new channel controller, they've got a big appetite for risk because they want to do loads of new things. They want to make room for new things.
You're going to let Kim. You've said that. You've already said that.
Why would I stop her?
Well, you wanted to. I mean, that's the point, isn't it? I mean, we're running out of time, and I want to get the questions, as we promised, from the audience in. Yeah, we've only got about just over 10 minutes left, but we can't move on to that until I just discuss briefly with you comedy. I mean, BBC2's been known for comedy and entertainment ever since it was born all those 50 years ago, but it was known to be a bit more anarchic and risk-taking and dangerous, do you think, than it is now? They're rather gentle, aren't they? The Trip and Rev and 2012 even.
2012, but I suppose...
Mind you, there was W1A.
W1A, which I know you'll have enjoyed.
Did you?
I thought it was brilliant. Yeah, and I think one of the good things about W1A is that not a single senior member of the BBC watched that until it was finished. And we just let the team get on with it without any interference, as they should have. I think those shows, I take them, they reach certain audience. I think if you saw Inside Number 9, that was one of the most experimental pieces of comedy we've seen on BBC television, on comedy for a very long time. I think The Wrong Man's, if I had to pick out one of my favourite things in the last 12 months across any channel, James Corden and Matthew Bates' Wrong Man's, I think exceptional in that sense. We've got a great new thing coming up. We've just commissioned a show from Javon Prince, a new black comic, which I'm hugely excited about the pilot of. We've just commissioned Britain's first, I think it'll be Britain's first broadcast network transgender comedy called Boy Meets Girl, which we did a pilot of as part of a writing scheme with a prize at the end, which will be on BBC2 soon. So we're taking lots and lots of risk in comedy. I think we've got a great team led by Shane there. Look, you want a mix of things. We actually want to find the next big mainstream popular thing like Miranda for BBC2 as well. But we want the edge as well.
But will you still use BBC3 now that it hasn't gone but has gone online? Yeah. Will you still use that as the nursery slopes? Is that still available there?
We're going to be making lots and lots of long-form and short-form comedy for BBC3. It will be premiered online. It will then always, if it's a long-form piece of comedy, it will also be shown on BBC2 or BBC1. So it will actually be seen by more people than it has been currently just on BBC3.
Okay,
so we're going to do more of that.
All right, as I say, time's at the back. Can we get your hands up if you want to ask any questions? You get some of our runners here who you can see, are running. Get your hands up and we'll get a mic to you. There's a gentleman there right in the middle of this fifth row, if you can get that there. Quick question, though, because we haven't had time to do it, on arts. I mean, really important for BBC2, but, you know, where is the culture show? How's that doing, and what are your plans for
the culture show is not, you know, if we define our arts content through one
but
show,
you know,
it would be right. Look, we've got Proms Extra going out every Saturday night. Again, something we're proud of, but gets a smallish audience on BBC2. Tony's invested many millions more in arts for BBC2 and BBC4, so you're going to see more and more arts coming through. The opportunity for arts are actually growing at the BBC, not diminishing.
Opportunities growing, that's the message you're putting out there, so keep the ideas coming in. Let's get some questions in here in these last few minutes. You, sir.
You talked about Jeremy Clarkson at the beginning of the session. Just to be clear, what did you say was unacceptable?
Could you ask? Sorry, just... Go on, you keep asking your question.
Yeah, what did you say was unacceptable? Was it the eeny meeny or the slope thing? And is it, just to be clear, is he on a last warning? And what might that actually mean for the show?
Welcome to our friends from the press. I was very unhappy with the language on both. Very, very unhappy with the language on both, and we've talked about both in quite a lot of detail. As I said, he feels differently about it than me, but I think it's very, very important that if you think a member of a team, including on-screen talent, has done something acceptable, you tell them, and I've given him that view very, very strongly.
Okay, and Danny was just simply asking there, who are you and where are you from? You identified, sorry, where were you from? Okay, thanks very much for that. If in future, when you ask a question, if we could get where you're from, it'd be very nice indeed. Anyone with any more questions? Get your hands up there. There's a woman there in 4 or 5 people in there on that row.
Hello, I'm Beverly from Vision TV in Canada, and I heard the interviewer mention that Rev is considered a soft or gentle comedy. Is that your opinion of it?
Oh, good question. Maybe. Oh, you think it's edgy?
I love it when people support my end of these things.
To buy it actually
Hi,
for
Bev.
Canada, and there were some things in it I can't have, so I'm just curious.
Yeah, Dermot, that's a question for you, that one.
Yeah, indeed. I love Rev. But I just don't really find it edgy. Well, it's very funny, well acted. We're not going to have a discussion about what is and isn't edgy.
As a take on the Christian church, you could say that's edgy. I'm with you on that one. Thanks, Bev.
Well, the Archbishop of Canterbury loves it.
Well, how do you know he's not edgy sometimes?
Well, indeed. Right, to be continued. Have we got another question? It's a good idea if you all get your hands up, and then we can identify. We'll have the mic with you, because seconds are very precious indeed. So we've got a question there, 3rd row from the back, from a gentleman there, please. Anyone else want to ask a question? Get your hand up now.
Hi, Danny. Chris Curtis from Broadcast. You talked a little bit about the commitment to show BBC3 originations on 1 and 2. I wonder if you can give us a bit more clarity over the potential slots. Is it the case that BBC3 stuff is going to be shown at 10:35, 11 o'clock at night? Might you be prepared to play some of that stuff, in 9 p.m. slots on those 2 main channels?
Yeah, hi, Chris. Yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll do it on a case-by-case basis. So you can really imagine pieces like Our War, the call centre, some of those pieces playing at 9 o'clock, undoubtedly. I think we'll also play stuff at 10:35 on BBC One and 11 o'clock on BBC One and after Newsnight. Just in terms of the BBC3 demographic, actually, the strongest part of the schedule in terms of their viewing hours is often 10 till midnight. And we've learnt that over the years on BBC3. So playing things between 10 and midnight is never a disadvantage. But there will be pieces both in factual and comedy and entertainment that we will do that with. We're also going to look at the opportunity at this point to see whether we should move some other shows over. So Backchat, the Jack Whitehall format with his dad, is now going to move to BBC2. So that will now become a BBC2 show in the future. So there'll be a bit of that as well with shows moving channels, but we'll also on a case-by-case basis look at which slots they should play in on BBC 1 and 2.
And thanks for asking that question. It gave me time to dig through my research into what Kim's been saying about comedy. Let's relate this to Rev. BBC2 should show its knickers more at 10 p.m. Does Rev show its knickers? Not just Rev, no, but I mean, what does that mean? What was BBC2?
Well, I think,
do you know what she means?
I think she'll think about things like Inside Number 9, which took that degree of risk. I think she'll be talking about shows like that. I think it's that point you're making. I think she's agreeing with you there about edge. Let's have more stuff that has that degree of edge. as well as the stuff which is just purely there to make people laugh out loud. I love that comedy that makes people laugh out loud, whether that's, you know, Miranda or Mrs. Brown too. I think there's room for all of those, that whole range on BBC2.
You're a big fan of Mrs. Brown's, boys. I mean,
Yeah, it makes me laugh. I love comedy that makes you laugh. You're not a fan of it?
yeah, if it makes me laugh.
If it makes you laugh. Look, it's a show enjoyed by 15 million people at Christmas, 1 in 4 of the UK population. Some people, it's not their taste, but actually, you know, I think
Yeah, I mean,
sometimes...
it's more an insight into you, yeah.
Yeah, I think people can sometimes be a bit sniffy about mainstream entertainment that makes lots of people laugh out loud. Since a kid, I've loved mainstream comedies that make people laugh out loud.
Yeah.
I think they're as hard to write, if not harder, than some kind of edgy comedies. Making lots and lots and lots of people laugh is probably one of the hardest things you can do in entertainment.
Okay, listen, we are out of time. Unless there's a really burning question from anyone out there, we are nearly out of time. So, I mean, if Kim were here, I mean, it's great to have you here, as I said at the introduction. What would her message be, particularly to people who want to pitch to her at BBC 2 and 4?
Yeah. Well, first of all, apologies again, it's me, not her, but I'll make sure she's here next year. I think the key is the door is open. I think she'll want to refresh her schedules. I think there'll be a new strive, as there always is when she's going for innovation, experimentation, fresh ideas across all of our genres. I think she'll want to have an open door and hear lots of ideas. And I think she's really keen to get to know people in the independent sector that she hasn't yet worked with.
Okay, so the door's open. We're going to end the session then. We said there were 4 clips. We've played 3. This is the last one. We asked you to pick an upcoming show you were excited about. Over to you, Danny. Tell us what it is.
So this is another good example of how we take our mission to inform BBC2 and try and do it in ways that will really cut through. Dermot, I think you're right to say that the challenge of competition means it's harder and harder to cut through. And when you want to take on complex subjects, how do you do that now? How do you do that in a way which helps them cut through? How do you make them have impact? This is about radar, the discovery of radar. And in this particular case, a bit like the Challenger doc we've done in the past, 37 Days, we've chosen to dramatise this piece of factual. And this is about the invention of radar starring Eddie Izzard. And it's interesting, you know, we've just commissioned for BBC2 a big new project based on Ian Banks' writing, Stone Mouth. So we want that kind of really text drama writing, but we'll also look for these factual pieces that we'll sometimes interpret in drama, as we have with this one on radar.
Okay, well, to conclude the session, we're going to play out on this. Let's have a look. Right, well, no more specific than that. Listen, that's the end of the session. Thanks very much to Danny Cohen. Thanks very much indeed.